to Unity of Charlotte. And whether you're here in the sanctuary, whether you're at home on Zoom, we welcome you. Or if you're watching this recording later on in the week, welcome. We welcome you no matter how you've shown up. My name is Reverend Jim Ernston. I am co-minister here with Reverend Lisa. And Unity of Charlotte, and where's my Unity of Charlotte? Let's go ahead and together say our mission statement, what we focus on for everything that we do. So together, Unity of Charlotte is a place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. Thank you. Is there anyone who is here for the first or maybe even second time? Gently raise your hand, and we'd like to acknowledge you. And another welcome. Welcome. So we welcome you, and we do have fellowship out in the entryway in the lobby out there. So come grab a cup of coffee. Feel free to ask us any questions about Unity in general or about Unity of Charlotte specifically. So again, right after service, we'll be out there. And also, we do have a, what do we call it? Our little packet of information that if you would like that, we have that as available as well. So look for that. Our fall book study is here, and we're in the middle of it. We did our first week last week. We had people meeting here in person on Sunday at 2 o'clock. If you would like to join us in person for that book study, grab some lunch, be here at 2 o'clock. We brought something that we're just going to pop in the microwave. But 2 o'clock, we get together for about an hour and talk about the topic of this book, Discover the Power Within You. You can't make it in person. We do this on Zoom on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock as well. So we've got two good groups going. Join either one. There's still time to join either one. We have our SSAM group. Lawrence, would you like to describe what that spiritual social action ministry is and that introduction is for us today?
Good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to see all of you here. And it's a pleasure to bring up a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I want to remind you of something that Reverend Lisa said not long ago. As a matter of fact, it was back into 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. She did something and then she asked within her message, how can I live my prayers in action? And so those of us who are understanding unity and have been practicing it for a while know that our prayers are full of the truth. And the truth is, unity is a young movement. Unity is less than 200 years old. Compare that, if you will, to Buddhism or Confucianism. Compare it to Christianity. And you can understand movement is different than an established church or established faith. Movement means that we are engaged in sharing our faith walk in one way or another. Actually, there's just thousands of ways to share our faith walk. And we are inviting those of you who are just itching to be more active in this community in the greater Charlotte area or want to be more active on the world stage. I mean, there are some New Thought communities that are involved with the United Nations, for example. Some are involved with teaching centers in Africa. So there are various ways in which we can act as though we are part of a movement. And so we want to assemble right after service today and begin to talk about what the choices are and how we can move forward with this great movement we are engaged in. And I know, just bringing up the word movement, I am maybe introducing a new concept to some of you. But when I first came to Unity of Charlotte back on January the 6th of 2013, I asked our pastor then, it was Reverend Nancy Ennis. Reverend Ennis, please introduce me to the social activists who are in your congregation. And she had answered. She introduced me to a group. It was a small group, but still, she knew who was busy demonstrating the love that they feel and the power that they feel from being engaged and walking the principles, the spiritual principles that we know. We're grounded in spiritual principles and will stay that way, even though we engage in other activities. So please come to see us at 1 o'clock out front. We'll grab one of the tables, and those of you who are interested, please join us at the table, and we'll figure out what the next step is. Thank you.
It's very casual. Grab a cup of coffee as they sit at the table, and you can just listen, see what's going on. Let's see, what's coming up next? We've got our new member installation and blessing. So we have 7 folks that have gone through the classes and have applied and have been approved by the board to become new members. They will be installed. They will be blessed by this congregation next Sunday. So we look forward to that. It's a special event for us. Also, next Saturday, Communication as Spiritual Practice. It is a 2-hour workshop, 10 o'clock to noon on next Saturday morning. And this is a way for us to learn to communicate with each other in love. And that's what we want to do, is be able to communicate with each other. And please join us for that next Saturday. Pet blessing. This week is actually St. Francis, what is it? St. Francis's Feast of St. Francis, which for a lot of other churches is when they do their pet blessing. So that's coming up. And if there's any interest, if you would like to serve on that team, please come see Reverend Lisa or myself, and we will move forward with it. Here's a clue. If no one comes up and volunteers, we won't do it. This is a way for us to judge how much interest is out there. So please come see us. And we've got a hand up here. Do the pet, you would bring your pet and they would be blessed. Right. You see a little picture of a little kitty. I did this with my daughter in Jacksonville, Florida, when she was younger. She had a little guinea pig, and we had that little guinea pig, and it was blessed, and it was the cutest little thing in the world, as that little guinea pig is squeaking as we're blessing it. So I've been at other churches who do cats, dogs, snakes, horses show up for this event sometimes. But no horses or donkeys in the building, please. We're not doing that. So if there's any interest in serving on that team, please come see either one of us. So those are our announcements. Let's go ahead and move into prayer. Let's move into prayer. I invite you to settle in, close your eyes if that feels right. Take that breath as we move within. We gently shift into that feeling space within our body as we move from our head, that thinking down into our heart, that feeling. And we notice in that heart space, and we allow that space to expand, to open up, to receive. We embrace that in this moment of deep awareness. We open ourselves up to the reality that we are actually above and beyond our humanity. Invite my mind and heart to recognize that, in fact, I am divine. I rise into this realization with every aspect of my being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I am divine. We are grateful for each other that know this message to be true. We're grateful for this space that we have to meet. And with that, we say, Amen. So please join me in our prayer of oneness. So out loud, there is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God the good, omnipotent. And now's the time where if there is somebody within your life that may be struggling or is in need of prayer at this time, this gives us a chance here collectively to say their name out loud, say the situation out loud, give it voice as we collectively bless those situations and those people. So at this time, say their name out loud. With each of these names, we hold each of these situations in prayer, knowing that the best is on its way, the right and perfect outcome. We are so grateful. Amen. Know also that we have silent unity at our disposal. If you are ever in need, in the middle of the night, in the early morning, whenever it is, 24 hours a day, Unity has silent unity that you can reach out to, either on your smartphone, text, or on the telephone, and somebody will be there to pray with you. Right there and then. Now we will move into daily word. Michael?
And today's daily word for Sunday, September the 24th is healing, is the daily word. And the affirmation, I'm going to do something, I always do something a little different because once I have this microphone, there's nothing anybody can, well, I'll say that. Then I'll call for that. You stay. I want to use this as an affirmation that we use together. So I'm going to say it one time. I want you to say it with me, first person, and then say it as a you, and then say it as an us. So it goes, divine life lives as me. I'm whole and well. Then we'll say divine life lives as you. And then we'll finish with divine life lives as us. We are whole and well. Divine life lives as me. I am whole and well. Divine life lives as you. You are whole and well. Divine life lives as us. We are whole and well. When I'm experiencing a healing need, I focus my thoughts beyond illness and discomfort. Even as I seek treatment for the injury or illness, I see myself whole. I remember that I'm created in the image according to the likeness of God. I know my life is God's life, living as me. Divine life fills every cell, strengthens every muscle, bone, and organ, and quickens every nerve in my body. It restores perfect order to all my body functions, releasing and replacing anything unlike itself. When someone asks me to pray with them, I do not ask about their symptoms or circumstances. I affirm the healing activity of divine life in each one with whom I pray. I see them as the spiritual beings they are, whole and well. Bible verse comes from John, first chapter, fourth verse. In him was the light, and the light was the light of all people.
Guess what we're going to talk about today? The Beatitudes. That's right. And I'm prepared. I have come prepared today. This is such a great topic, and it is in one of the chapters of this book that we are studying in our book study that we're going to be talking about after the service. So if it piques some interest in you and you want to dive in a little deeper, join us at 2 o'clock. Even if you haven't read it, it's okay. Just join us and you can jump into the conversation. Let me put this down here. The Beatitudes. How many are familiar with the Beatitudes in the Sermon on the Mount? That's a lot, because when I was doing my research, I found out this is like the most familiar part of the Christian scriptures that the most people know about, is Sermon on the Mount. And this is where Jesus opens up this talk by giving 8 blessings, 8 Beatitudes. And I loved how Eric Butterworth put it here. He said, let me find him. That the sermon proper is introduced by an 8-verse prose poem that's been called the Beatitudes, which is a general summation of the whole religion of Jesus. In 8 verses. That's a pretty powerful statement. But I think as we look at them, we're going to understand why. And part of what we're going to be looking at, along with the fact of how revolutionary this actually was, what he was introducing at that time, but also how spiritual social action ties in with the Beatitudes, because these are attitudes which engage us in our, not only our own transformation, but engage us in the transformation of the world. So let's start by looking a little bit. What does the word beatitude mean? If you look at it as just a strict definition, it actually means a state of utmost bliss, happiness, blessedness, joy, and gladness. That's what that word means. I didn't know that for a long time, beatitude. It's from the Latin word beatus, meaning happy and blessed. And in the Bible, it's in Matthew 5, and it shows up as the opening, as I said, of the Sermon on the Mount. And it's a series of 8 blessings that are outlining the ideal attributes or states of being. The ideal, not attributes, sorry, the ideal attitudes, beatitudes, an attitude, a state of being. And it introduces the state of being, and from that state of being, the result that will manifest. That's the format of these 8 verses. Now, it's kind of interesting to note, if any of you know anything about Buddhism, is that Buddhism has an 8-fold path. And it lists 8 tenets that if you live by, so that you can be liberated from suffering. And I didn't do a deep search on this, but I know, I can tell you there's a few correlations, and it's very interesting, because Buddhism is also focused very much on state of mind, not action. Now, another little interesting tidbit I found out is Jack Kerouac. Who knows Jack Kerouac? Good, there's a few of us here. He was a writer and the leader of the Beat generation. It's where we get the word beatniks, if that rings a bell. And they picked the word beat initially because it meant they were weary. I just feel beat, I'm weary. They're weary of the status quo. They were weary of the establishment, and they were the anti-establishment movement. But Jack Kerouac later referred to it as a shortened version of beatific, which comes from the word beatitude, because he wanted it related to the fact that it is about a desire to start living from a higher spiritual consciousness, from a greater spiritual consciousness, and that's really what they were seeking to do. So I thought that was a very interesting little tidbit about the Beatitudes. Now, beatitude, the word means blessing. But I looked it up in our Revealing Word. This is all the terms, metaphysical terms. I think Reverend Jim introduced us to this last week also. If you look up the word bless, it means to invoke good upon, to call forth the action of God. To bless is to call forth the action of God. Now, I love this because we say bless you a lot. And it's become such a unused word in our normal vocabulary that I think we forget the power of it. When I sign off on my emails, I was very intentional about how to sign off on that. What words do I want to use? And I kept landing on blessings. That was the one that resonated for me, and this is why. It's not a shallow little salutation. It actually has a very deep meaning. The power of blessing imparts the quickening spiritual power that produces growth and increase. Blessing imparts a spiritual quickening. So when someone is offering you a blessing, they're sharing with you or joining with you to quicken that divinity, that power of divinity that lies within each one of us. That's amazing. That's amazing. So at the end of my email, when I'm saying blessings, that's what I'm calling forth in myself and whoever is reading that. So let's take that now into this whole idea of the Beatitudes, because the Beatitudes were a revolutionary presentation at the time Jesus spoke them or wrote them, because most scholars believe this was a prepared talk. It was so well written and well constructed and well delivered. And they said this really laid out the tenets of the teachings that Jesus was bringing to the world. And the reason it's so revolutionary is it describes states of mind, attitudes, ways of being in a tradition that was built on thou shalt or thou shalt not. Right? Laws. The Jewish tradition was based on laws, 613 of them to be exact in the Torah. And this was their heritage. This was the long-held tradition that had been counted on, that probably saved them many, many times. So Jesus was not abolishing this law, but he was raising our consciousness to understand it at the level of love. Instead of the letter of the law, we were going to experience the level of love. So as he presented this was very revolutionary at the time. And as you can imagine, the religious authorities, whose whole job was to maintain the law, which was don't do this or do this, the whole basis of that religion was based on that. It was a shock, and maybe a little more than they wanted to or could take on at that time. But the question I ask myself is, where are we in taking this on? Today, as I stand here, do I hear these words and this call to be these Beatitudes? Reverend Jim shared with us last week the understanding from Jesus that what he taught was not about conforming but transforming. Do not conform to the world. Do not conform to laws. Be transformed by them. Be transformed by that presence within. So these Beatitudes offer a way of allowing that transformation to take place. And they promise an experience of heaven on earth, of living a life that is full of joy, that is thriving, that is fulfilled. So in Matthew 5:17, Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." So I think it's important to understand that Jesus wasn't there to abolish Judaism. He was there to transform it. And I don't think there was ever an intention for it to become a whole new religion, but that's where it grew into. But as we go back and look at these, and I was going to try to take a quick look at each, but we're not going to do that. But I invite you to join us if there's any one particular one you're really curious about, to come and join us in our book study, because we are going to look at one of them in depth. But just to remind you what these Beatitudes are. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. There's been a lot of interpretation about what that actually means. And there are some traditions which look at the words poor in spirit, those who mourn, those who are meek, those who hunger, and see it as something that we're meant to experience. So if you're poor, then you're going to reap rewards later. But that's not where we understand these. We understand these to be where you go in your mind to have a shift of consciousness, to understand the divinity of which you are, that lives within you. So for instance, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Poor in spirit actually means not prideful. You're not filled with a self-centered kind of pride, because that keeps the awareness of God out of our consciousness. But to become poor in spirit is someone who empties themselves of their selfishness, of their self-centeredness. They become open to allow the presence of God within to begin to shine forth. So I can't go through each one today, but that's an example of how we can re-look at it. Emmett Fox, if you know Emmett Fox, wrote an amazing book on the Sermon on the Mount. Highly encourage you to read it if you're interested in diving deeper into it. A lot of that is in the Discover the Power Within, because Eric Butterworth read a lot of Emmett Fox. But where I would like to go now is to the one I want to look at more deeply, is blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, because I believe being a peacemaker is what spiritual social action is about. And I love, Lawrence, how you talked about it as a movement, because that's exactly what it is. Unity is a movement. It's a movement of divine energy within our own microcosm of self, but also a movement of divine energy as to who we are as one interconnected organism. And so we can't leave that part out. And I think that the development of every movement always starts from within, and it's an individual work. But it can't end there, because we're not individuals. We're individual expressions, but we are one body. So if I cut my finger, I'm going to take care of that cut and let it heal. But that finger is attached to a hand, to an arm, to a whole body that functions all together. And that's what we're meant to do. And if we're not functioning in a way that is healthy, if we are not functioning in a way that is creating a sense of peace and contentment and thriving for all, well, then we have some work to do, right? We have our inner work to do, and then we bring those principles out into the world. So this is what being a peacemaker is. So what does it mean to be a peacemaker? Peace is not passive. Think about that for a moment. Because I know certainly when I'm sitting by myself and I'm letting everything go, opening up to Spirit, I feel a deep sense of peace. And it's very quiet. It's very centered. And that peace is necessary to ground myself in order to move out and engage in the world and bring it with me. But that's where peace is no longer passive, it's very active. Because we are meant to be lights of the world. We talk about this all the time. I am the light of the world. Well, I can't be a light of the world sitting in my room with my door closed, feeling bliss on my cushion. Well, it's not exactly true, because that time is absolutely felt by the entire consciousness. So let me correct myself there. There is a great value to closing yourself off into your room and going into quiet and going into that deep connected space. And you do impact the entire consciousness when you do that. But you're also living a life in this world, and how we engage is bringing that light out to the rest of the world. Really, I could say to the rest of the parts of me. Because you're all the rest of the parts of me. And I am a part of the rest of you. So how am I engaging with you? There's a passage in James 2:14 through 17 that most of you may know. It's called Faith Without Works. Faith without works is dead. And it says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such a faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself that is not accompanied by action is dead." And in this case, faith and peace I'm using interchangeably. Faith is what carries us forward. Peace is what we're bringing. So, how do we stay true to our spiritual principles and also engage in deeds that are going to be impactful in the world, to bring the divinity everywhere alive? What do we do? I have a quote by Emily Cady. Emily Cady is a foundational teacher from the original Unity movement. It's coming. There it is. One of the great teachers, very foundational. We still use her books to learn. And she says this about peacemakers. She says, "Peacemakers are persons who make peace outwardly because they have attained an inner peace." So, very key that we have to have our inner peace first. There's wonderful quotes and memes out on social media that say this in a lot of different ways. Peace begins within. I must be the peace before I can bring peace out to the world, and that's very true. Since they are at peace with God, they're also at peace with others, and they bring peace to all the conditions in which they are involved. That's where I believe we move from being at peace to being peacemakers. When I read this beatitude, I thought, well, it's no accident they use the word maker, because none of the others sound that way. Blessed are the meek, blessed are the poor in spirit. But this is being a peacemaker, which implies there's something we're actively involved in creating. So there's more to it. Because when we find our own sense of peace, I believe service to ourselves and service to others becomes the natural movement. That's a natural movement to step out because you feel a sense of connection and a sense of purpose and a sense of responsibility to not only myself or yourself, but to our greater community. That's how we bring our spiritual community together. But now we're looking at the movement that's going out into the world, into our greater community. And Lawrence spoke so wonderfully about that. I'm looking forward to sitting down afterwards because we want to open it up and explore ideas. Who's feeling this fire? Who's feeling this passion to be of service in a greater way? Because that's how I keep growing. That's how my own spiritual growth happens. And these Beatitudes are a way that we stay grounded. These are our grounding points of our spiritual principles that we live by in our own life. But now we get to carry them forth and see them come alive out in the world. So I want to share a quote from Andrew Harvey. Many of you may know Andrew Harvey. He actually came to Unity of Charlotte when Reverend Nancy was here, I believe. And I found a video. We have, I think Alan knows, we have like 300 videos from the past services. Well, you could go and find anything. Well, I don't know how I landed on it, but Andrew Harvey popped up. So clearly I was meant to watch this video. So there has been in this community that sense of awareness of social action, being a part of what we're being called to participate in. But it's important because we put the word spiritual in the front of it, because we're not rushing out to change something outside of ourselves. We're transforming our own hearts and minds, and we're bringing that to every situation we're involved in. So let me read a little bit about what he says, practicing sacred activism, which is what he calls it. He says, we can live from a vision of action that is inspiring, hopeful, and grounded in deep spiritual wisdom and compassion. That's a beautiful way of saying what sacred activism actually is. A vision, living from a vision of action that is inspiring, hopeful, and grounded in deep spiritual wisdom and compassion. People are rising up who have fused deep spiritual knowledge, experience, and practice with wise, incessant action for justice and peace. Together, we can accomplish the unimaginable. Well, I'm going to say it is imaginable because I can imagine it. And I use the power of my imagination to see a world where we all awaken to our own divine nature and the connection we have with each other. Because how does that change the way you live in this world? If you know that each person is another part of you, how would that change your sense of openness, your sense of caring, and your sense of responsibility? Peace is not just a noun, it is a verb. You do peace. You demonstrate it. You live it, and you example it. The Beatitudes are a call to step into your divinity, into this state of consciousness that each one represents, so that you may fulfill your purpose on this planet. What is this life for you? And that calling may be different for each one of you. I know that part of my calling is interfaith, because I'm constantly drawn to opportunities to connect with other faiths and to build bridges and connections, because certainly if we're all houses of spirituality, we should be connecting, not demanding everyone think we do the way we do, but connect at a level of love which is common in every single person, regardless of how they worship. There's so many other ways. There's environmental activities that I'm also called to do. There's racial equality. There's LGBTQI equality. There's just so many areas in our world that are calling for light and love and connection. And it's interesting because we got here early, and I was listening to Reverend Judy was up here talking to her congregation in the service before us. And she was quoting Martin Luther King about hate cannot eliminate hate. It has to be love. Light does not eliminate, darkness does not eliminate darkness. It has to be light. And I know I didn't quote that exactly right, and she was talking about the very thing that we were starting to talk about today, about being the light in the world, being the actions that you take that help everybody thrive, to make sure everybody feels that sense of worth. Because if we do, then how we start coming together, the laws that we make, the practices that we start to follow will change. So I have one more slide for you, because I wanted to share with you a little bit about where we are as a Unity Worldwide movement. This is a statement from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Unity World Headquarters. Those are two global organizations. And years, I don't know how many years it's been a few. They got together and said, we need to make a statement about our social action position. And I share this with you because we're a part of this movement. So we get to find our own expression of it. So what they said, and this is just a portion of it. It's much longer, but this is a portion of it. The Unity movement stands for and will tirelessly work for harmony, so all people may know the freedom of peaceful expression, so they may know their own inner worth and essential contribution to the whole of life. I thought this was a very powerful statement to express as who we are is in unity. And now as a local expression of Unity of Charlotte, how do we want to come together and be peacemakers in our community and in our world? So that's the question we'll be posing as we meet. So please join us. It's an informal gathering at 1 o'clock after the service. And we're looking to see who's got the fire, the passion, the interest, and ideas. I know Lawrence is already there. I'm already there. Reverend Jim's already there. So we invite you to come join us. It will probably be not more than 20 minutes or so. It's just to start planting seeds and get kicked off into the direction that this community wants to go. Beatitudes. So let's move into a meditation now and allow that sense of being to come into our experience. So I offer this time to you to just sit back. If it's comfortable, let your feet be on the floor with your hands gently resting in your lap. or however is comfortable for you to feel like you can just let go for a moment. Gently close your eyes or lower your lids and just stare softly ahead. Enough to allow your attention to move inward. It helps to start by focusing on the breath. Take a nice deep breath in and a long breath out. One more time, following the breath in. And as you release on a slow exhale, let your body just relax a little deeper. Your shoulders drop. Your eyes relax. Your jaw relaxes. And you feel a sense of calm. As your attention moves within and leaves all the daily activities as they are for a moment. And we sink into a deep, quiet place. A place we know of, a place that calls to us when we can hear it. A place of rest within. A place of light, of space. Openness. And in this place, we just get to experience a sense of being. As thoughts come and go, just welcome them and then let them go. And rest in a sense of being. Not being anything in particular, just be. As you rest in this quiet place, you might ask, what am I called to be in this world? The answer you're seeking comes from deep within. So as you ask the question, let that space open up to simply listen. And when you're ready, begin to slowly bring your consciousness, your attention, and your focus back to your body. Feel it sitting in the seat. But bring with you that sense of quiet, that sense of peace, and that sense of being. And if you didn't hear a specific answer, no, it's okay. Sometimes these answers come to us throughout our day, or they unfold step by step. So know that you have been heard, and the answer is there, present. And we come back with our eyes open, feeling a sense of gratitude for this deep sense of being that connects us with our source and connects us with each other. And so it is.
We have multiple ways of giving. You'll see this, our donate button on our website. We have the ability to text on your cell phone. If you have a smartphone, you can text the word give to that phone number. You can use your own bill pay when you get home. That QR code that you see up there allows you to use a credit card as well. Out in the hallway here, you can also, there's another QR code that goes directly to PayPal. So you got all these, or you can use cash. Or you can use cash. So together, let's do our prosperity blessing. Joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. The light of God surrounds us. We are light. The love of God upholds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.